What is up, guys? It's your boy Breaking News Cacus, and today, or I should say literally just now, we have some brand new information involving the Final Shape DLC launch, more specifically the Final Shape raid, and more. And so, let's get started. Now, all of this information is coming from Twitter, or I guess X, and the Destiny 2 team official Twitter account, which is kind of the community outreach account for Bungie. They just retweeted a thread by Katrina Macedo. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Now, who is that? Well, as you can see right here, she is the project lead of Destiny 2 expansions at Bungie. So that's a pretty big deal. And what she's doing is providing, again, brand new Final Shape information as a response to the community reaction over yesterday's news. So if you're a little bit out of the loop, I would highly recommend watching my Destiny 2 news video that came out yesterday, going over this raid announcement, my and frankly many other people's reaction to it, as well as some other information like how they're massively buffing the drops for Onslaught, again, linked right up above. But to quickly summarize, there's only going to be 3 days between the start of the Final Shape expansion and the Day 1 raid. And we used to have this many years ago, but Bungie has since changed that to allow people more time to get ready, more time to actually experience the expansion and not just furiously level. And so basically you have half the community saying, you know, I don't want to have to like blast through this content just to get raid ready. I don't want this. And the other half going, sounds like a skill issue to me. Pretty classic gamer community situation going on right now. But here is the additional information now that we have that groundwork, the lore about what's going on. So Katrina says, hey everyone, I want to talk to you about why the Final Shape raid is going live shortly after release on June 7th. We know this is a tight turnaround and wanted to share some context on why we made this decision. Back in August, we said that finishing the campaign would not be the grand finale of the Light and Darkness saga. You will be facing off against the Witness in the raid. And for non-raiders, there will be an opportunity for everyone to experience the conclusion sometime after the raid. Now she continues, the Final Shape expansion is different. The additional content in the Pale Heart post-campaign and unlocking the raid for everyone is important for getting a cohesive and satisfying story experience. We're looking at you raiders to be the tip of the spear. And she says even more, when raid day arrives, no matter if you choose to go in for contest mode in the first 48 hours or wait for normal mode to unlock, in order to experience the story linearly and as intended, you will need to have the campaign completed and finish the quest wildcard. Prioritize those. And then we end off here with Episode Echo's story, the beginning of the next journey, starts in week 2. So, a lot to unpack there. Let's go over it. Now, first of all, if there was any doubt in your mind as to what the raid boss would be, Bungie just straight up answered it. We are facing the Witness in the raid. But additionally, Bungie is really stressing here that the raid is an integral part of the Final Shape story. We've kind of had this before in the Taken King, where we went through the campaign, killed Oryx, and then we did the King's Fall raid and kind of killed him again. But in this instance, it really seems like no, like we will not kind of kill the Witness in the campaign. The actual proper conclusion to the story will be in the raid, with Bungie literally saying, if you want to experience the story linearly and in its complete nature, you have to do the campaign and then the raid in that order, right? And so that is really interesting. I speculated on this somewhat yesterday as like maybe the reason for the quick turnaround is that it's just continuing the story right into the raid. And this also brings up quite a few questions about difficulty. If it is supposed to be the actual story conclusion, if it's supposed to be the climax after the campaign to this overarching story, potentially we will see this Final Shape raid being on the easier side just so that people can properly experience that storyline. Maybe not in contest mode. Contest mode is still likely to be pretty challenging, but in normal mode, maybe it'll play out more like some of the easier raids we've seen in the past, maybe like a Ron type raid, aka Root of Nightmares. Now, another interesting thing is that they confirmed the 48-hour contest mode period. Bungie actually said nothing about it being 48 hours yesterday. I don't know why they do that, but today it was confirmed 48 hours for contest mode to get those, I still say day one emblems, but they're contest mode emblems for the raid. But aside from that, guys, the other extremely interesting piece of information was the mention of episode echoes. So if you're wondering, what the heck is episode echoes? Well, you can see it right here. It's one of 3 announced, they call them episodes, but they seem like kind of extended seasons that are going to be arriving after the final shape, with echoes being the first one. You can see it includes a new exotic weapon, new exotic mission. You have Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3. Each act is going to add more quests, more weapons, etc. And this is going to begin week 2. So June 4th, the final shape comes out, which means on June 11th, Echoes is going to begin. And that's a very quick turnaround. 1 week to conclude the Light and Darkness saga, and then literally the next reset, boom, the witness is dead or not, I don't know the conclusion, but that story concludes and we're on to the next thing. 1 week later, which is pretty crazy, guys. Now, we usually do have some sort of season alongside a major expansion, right? We almost always do. But normally, it is not this week delay. They launch at the same time. So it is kind of interesting that it's just the final shape. The final shape and technically no season, right? Until that second week. Now, this brings up another interesting question, actually, which is, well, if there's no season starting for a week, will we have access to some seasonal stuff like the seasonal artifact? Well, someone actually asked that question and Katrina responded. So right here she says, good question. You'll get progression on your artifact and season pass from day 1 of the final shape launch. So that is, I'm thankful she kind of really confirmed that, because that was the next really worrying point. Like, oh my goodness, are we gonna have to raid with no seasonal artifact perks? But there you go, starting day 1, you're gonna be able to progress that season's pass, which also means you're gonna get access to whatever the new season's pass exotic is, potentially for the raid, which is another important thing. And I want to end things off here with one more reply from Katrina. So someone asked about this whole subject, genuinely curious, wasn't there a worry that players would feel like they need to speedrun the campaign instead of savoring so they're raid ready, especially with non-stable servers? I really wonder how much we'll be able to enjoy playing pre-weekend. And she replies, it was definitely a worry. We had to balance many factors, time for preparedness, contest being as fair as possible, game stability, the looming threat of the witness on the universe, time gating or not content, story cohesion, balance concerns, etc. So it looks like, Bungie is acknowledging that, yeah, like there's definitely some downsides to having it 3 days away. But again, it really sounds like the main reason is narratively, right? It's like we have this overarching story, and if you play the campaign and you're done, and you have to wait a week for the raid, you're going to be sitting around feeling maybe unsatisfied, right? Like you didn't get a proper conclusion. The conclusion is actually in the raid. So that is pretty interesting. And again, speculate as to how difficult that's going to be if it's such an important part of the story. Like I said earlier, I would kind of expect it to be easier. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be the hardest raid ever. I also expect it to be a massive finale. It's probably going to be one of the biggest raids we've ever seen. Like I can't imagine them ending off with a small raid with not too many bosses. So we'll really have to see, guys. But that is some brand new information and really kind of an interesting way of rolling out an expansion that we haven't seen before. The lack of a season until that second week, the conclusion, and then already beginning a new storyline in the second week. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Guys, that's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.